my brother, Ryan Clark, a person that I consider to be arguably the best NFL analyst in America, is no longer a member of ESPN. And I can't even tell y'all how much that hurts. I'm gonna miss him. I am not happy about this decision one bit.
Stephen A. Smith doesn't get shook. The man built a career out of never flinching on camera. And there he is, voice cracking, telling America his guy just got the corporate axe. That's not a hot take. That's grief with a microphone in front of it.
This is one of many reasons I love this brother for life. This was arguably the best talent on the ESPN roster. How can you know who'll still be there and Ryan Clark ain't? Wow. And please tell me the rumors of Cam Newton ain't true and this dude is still there.
Coach Prime didn't wait for a press conference. He went straight to the timeline. And when Deion Sanders is publicly side-eyeing your org chart, that's not a vibe, that's a subpoena.
They did it on purpose to humiliate him on air. They're firing everybody else a certain type of way, but they planned on doing that. Yeah, we're gonna go viral with you while we letting you go. This was all planned. This was a humiliation ritual.
A humiliation ritual. Not a layoff, not a restructuring memo. A ritual. Like ESPN needed a sacrifice and picked the guy already sitting under the studio lights. That's the whole story in 3 clips, and none of them are exaggerating. This week, the self-proclaimed worldwide leader in sports didn't just trim payroll. It fired Ryan Clark mid-broadcast, on air, mid-segment, in front of the exact audience that made him a star. Then followed it up less than 24 hours later by cutting Cam Newton loose, too. And before you assume this is a random Tuesday in corporate America, sit with the choreography of it. This wasn't a Slack message at 5 p.m. on a Friday. This was a live execution, streamed to millions, with the body still warm when the next name dropped. Let's rewind and get you the receipts, because this situation has more layers than a Shakespeare succession plot, and somehow it's still just July. Ryan Clark has been at ESPN for a decade, 3-time Emmy winner, 4 Emmys total across 3 years if you're being generous with the math, co-host of NFL Live, a show that had never won an Emmy before he showed up and hasn't since. That's not a guy padding a resume, that's a guy who was the resume. And on Monday, in the middle of a live segment, network brass pulled him during a commercial break and told him he was done. Not after the show, not before it started, during a break, mid-broadcast, like he was a contestant getting eliminated and not a human being with a mortgage.
I spoke to a source close to NFL Live production on Ryan Clark's firing, who tells me Ryan Clark was blindsided while on air. My source is alleging that the head of ESPN content, Burke Magnus, had the news of the firing leaked to Outkick, an outlet who my source alleges then celebrated and rallied conservatives to pour on support to control the narrative.
Read that again. The allegation isn't just that Clark got fired. It's that ESPN's own leadership allegedly tipped off Outkick, a website that spent years calling Clark a race baiter before Clark himself even knew he was unemployed. If that's accurate, that's not a layoff. That's a PR strategy wearing a layoff's clothes. You don't leak a firing to your target's biggest critics unless you want the narrative written for you before your own guy can defend himself. That's mob business. We didn't just take him out, we made sure the neighborhood heard about it before the body hit the floor. And through all of it, Ryan Clark's public response wasn't rage, it was grace, which honestly might be the most savage part of this whole thing.
Sending prayers and love to all of those laid off today by ESPN. So many of you have poured your life into that company, and I know how you're feeling right now. My hope is as this door closes, another opens for you all. God bless.
No shots fired, no subtweets. The man got humiliated on national television and responded like a guy accepting a eulogy he didn't write for himself. Meanwhile, the internet did the yelling for him. Deion Sanders, Stephen A., half of NFL Twitter, and eventually Cam Newton's entire fan base. So why now? Why this week? Because this isn't really about Ryan Clark's job performance. This is about a merger nobody outside the industry was paying attention to until bodies started dropping.
There was a deal done between the NFL and ESPN, okay? According to the reports, the recent mass layoffs are the direct structural consequence of ESPN acquiring NFL Network and its media assets. Under this deal, the NFL transferred full control of the NFL Network, NFL Red Zone, and its digital platforms to ESPN. In return, the NFL receives a 10% equity stake in ESPN.
Sit with that number for a second. 10%. The NFL now literally owns a slice of the network that broadcasts opinions about the NFL. That's not journalism anymore. That's a family business with a studio audience. And when two companies merge, you already know what happens to headcount. Somebody's job becomes redundant, which is corporate for, we already have a guy who does that, and you're the expensive version. Ryan Clark, Cam Newton, Carl Ravik, Tom Pelissero, Bart Scott, Charles Davis, David Lloyd, Stefania Bell, reportedly around 150 people total, on air and behind the camera, all got caught in the same net on the same week. This is where it stops being one guy's bad Tuesday and starts being a league-wide referendum on who actually gets protected when the money moves. And it's not just the big names on camera. Carl Ravik had been calling games for ESPN for 33 years, 3 decades of building trust with an audience, and he still got the same treatment as everybody else. 33 years of tenure bought him nothing when the org chart got redrawn. That's the part that should terrify anyone who thinks seniority is a shield. It isn't. It's a line item. Because here's the part that should make every analyst in sports media nervous. Talent isn't dying because it's bad. It's dying because it's good enough to be expensive.
Start to create your own show so you can't be fired. Incubate yourself from being fired from an executive. Because here's the most fascinating dichotomy of everything. Once you get good, you will become so good that you become too expensive to afford. And networks can only afford so many great talent.
That's the turning point of this whole saga. And it's brutal because it's true. Getting good at your job used to be the safety net. Now, getting good is the target on your back. Pat McAfee reportedly just got his deal bumped past $60 million a year, while his show gets licensed out separately, which means the network is choosing to consolidate its bets on fewer, bigger names instead of spreading the budget across a full bench. That's not a talent evaluation, that's a portfolio rebalance, and Ryan Clark's Emmys weren't enough collateral to survive it. And don't think this is new. Remember when Shannon Sharpe left ESPN for a fortune? Undisputed no more? Brought in as one of the guys taking over First Take Real Estate? The moment his ROI didn't match the price tag, the door found him too. It's the same pattern that took down Max Kellerman a few years back, and the same pattern that quietly ended Jemele Hill's run before that. ESPN has done this dance before. Bring in a big name, ride the rating spike, then cut the cord the second the math stops favoring the checkbook. Cleveland's had the same problem with Baker Mayfield, the Lakers had it with a dozen max contracts, and now ESPN's control room is running the exact same math. Is this person worth what we're paying them relative to what they bring in? The difference is, when a team benches a quarterback, he still gets his check and his locker. When a network benches an analyst mid-segment, they make sure the internet watches it happen live, in real time, with no time to even process it before the cameras cut away. So what does this actually cost ESPN, beyond the obvious optics disaster? Credibility. The entire value of a sports commentator is that they'll tell you the truth even when it's inconvenient, and you just watch the guy running the second most powerful seat of the network essentially admit he couldn't stop it.
Just wish that I could have been in enough of an influential or powerful position to prevent his exit from happening. I can disagree with my employers. What you're not going to get me to do is insult my employers.
That's Stephen A. Smith, the guy reportedly making more money than half the guys he covers, telling you flat out he doesn't have the juice to save his own friend's job. If the highest paid personality in sports media can't stop a beheading 3 feet from his own desk, what exactly is job security supposed to look like for anybody else on that roster? That's the stakes here. This isn't just Ryan Clark's story. It's a warning shot to every analyst, every insider, every trusted voice sitting comfortably on a set right now thinking their numbers protect them. And the fallout doesn't stop at the people who got cut. It ripples outward into who gets to control the narrative next. Because while half of sports media mourned Ryan Clark, there's a very online conservative corner that treated this like a parade. Outkick's crowd, some of the same voices Clark's own former colleagues have sparred with on air, took the layoff as a victory lap. That's the ugliest layer of this whole thing. A company restructuring turned into a culture war trophy before HR even finished the paperwork. Whether or not the league allegation against Burke Magnus holds up, the fact that it's even plausible enough for a Breakfast Club source to say it out loud tells you how little trust is left between talent and leadership in that building right now. And Cam Newton, the guy who got dragged into this same news cycle less than 24 hours after Clark, didn't respond like a man plotting revenge either.
It's unfortunate what happened to Ryan Clark, but what I will tell you is this. Ryan Clark gonna be okay. The pivot ain't going nowhere. It's unfortunate what happened to me, some would think, but I'm good. 4th and 1 ain't going nowhere. Funky Friday ain't going nowhere. What I've learned, it was an internship almost.
An internship. A former NFL MVP just described his ESPN tenure as an internship on his own podcast less than a day after getting cut. That's not bitterness, that's a receipt. Newton wasn't even there a full year before he got wrapped into a layoff wave that was supposedly about post-merger restructuring, which tells you this wasn't about performance either. It was about who's cheap enough to keep and who's expensive enough to cut, regardless of how long you've actually been in the building. Compare that to Tom Pelissero, one of the most plugged-in insiders in the sport, gone in the same wave. Compared to Charles Davis, a guy who's called games for 2 decades, swept up right alongside him. This wasn't a talent purge, it was a spreadsheet purge, and talent just happened to be sitting in the blast radius. So zoom all the way out. This week, ESPN didn't just lose 2 on-air personalities, it lost the thing that made those personalities valuable in the first place, trust. Ryan Clark's own network reportedly used his firing as a PR play. Stephen A. Smith, the face of the whole operation, publicly admitted he couldn't stop it. Cam Newton walked away calling 4 years of loyalty an internship. And somewhere in a conference room, executives are still calling this integrating the NFL assets we acquired and carefully evaluating our organizational structure to best position us for the future. Corporate language dressed up to describe a man getting told he's fired while the cameras were still rolling. Here's the part nobody in that press release is going to say out loud. Ryan Clark is going to be fine. He's got the pivot, he's got 3 networks that would hire him by lunchtime, he's got an entire industry publicly vouching for him in real time. Cam Newton's got 4th and 1 and a platform that doesn't need ESPN's permission to exist. The people who actually got hurt here are the 150 or so names you'll never see trending. The producers, the researchers, the behind-the-camera staff who don't have a podcast to fall back on when the door closes. ESPN spent a decade building the worldwide leader on the backs of people it just decided it can live without. And the scariest part of this whole story isn't that Ryan Clark got fired on live television. It's that ESPN proved it would do it again tomorrow if the math says so. And the only question left is who's next on the spreadsheet.